Today on the show, Chant You Can Learn, devotion to St. Joseph in the month of March, taking the patience to pray, our picks of the week, and so much more. The Catholic Underground starts right now. Oh, yes, indeed. It is a time for the Catholic Underground. We are the podcast that tries to cut through the noise of the digital continent and bring you the topics that matter. It's episode number 418. I am Father Chris Decker. Joining me this week, we've got all of them. All of our special guests from far and wide. We have Kathleen Lee.
I'm not from far and wide.
No, you were from near.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So near and far.
I gotta be wide.
Oh, Kathleen, how I've missed you in the 5 and some odd days that we haven't seen each other. Also joining us, Gemma Wildsmith. You might remember her.
Oh, yeah, it's been a while, but I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, we're happy to have you back in the United States and certainly at the CU desk.
Thank you.
You know, Gemma, we've just appointed you. You are our UK correspondent.
Brilliant.
Catholic Underground.
You're
okay with that?
I'm definitely okay with that.
Awesome. Very good. Let's go up to the Jeff Star 1 near-Earth orbit satellite, shall we? And find Jeff. Jeff he's up there.
Yes,
hey, Jeff.
I am the far and the wide.
Yeah, there you are. Okay. All right. And Jamie Cherry, who you also know as a friend of the Catholic Underground, she's sitting in the studio audience and she is in the chat room. So if you're watching us live, you can visit with Jamie. She didn't want to be on the microphone. She's laughing at us now, as a matter of fact. Yeah. So I don't know, Kathleen, how much you have experienced Gregorian chant in your life.
I have. I love it. I don't listen to it all the time, but it is something that I put on when I'm like, okay, let's calm it down. Mm-hmm. Let's calm life down and I need something in the background that's like, yeah.
And also, maybe this happens where you are, Gemma, as well. Anytime any person of any faith tradition or none at all wants to say something churchy, it's usually chant that's in the background. Do you find that?
Yeah.
You ever notice that?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's almost always something that's out of step with the season. So like if it's like a police procedural and they walk into a church, it might be Lent, but they're going to be chanting an Alleluia, something like that, you know? Yeah. So it is. It's ethereal sounding, and the beautiful thing about chant is that it does not follow the human heartbeat. So much of our music follows the human heartbeat, Jeff. Did you know that? Yeah?
Yes.
But chant does not. Chant has its own rhythm. And so as such, you're not kind of keeping time and meter in the same way that you would if you were playing a guitar or playing standard music notation like we have today. Although standard music notation is based upon, ready for a word, the neumes of Gregorian chant. And neumes are those little square notes.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So if you're watching us on the radio, the little square notes that are behind me there are the Gregorian chant notation. And modern music notation is based upon that as well. And so two young friars, not like Knights of Columbus.
Not a fish fryer?
Not a fish fryer, yeah. But two young Dominican friars are bringing Catholic music education to a computer near you, and they've started OP chant. So I probably should explain why it's called OP, right? Doesn't stand for overpowered or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But the Ordo Predicatorum, the order of preachers, that we call them the Dominicans. Yeah, exactly. So the order of preachers, the Dominican friars, brothers Stefan Ansinger and Alexandra Frizzato, started a YouTube channel that offers lessons in traditional Catholic chant for free of charge. And free is a wonderful price.
Yes, it is.
It's true, yeah. And that's one of the things I like about YouTube and a lot of these sources of new media is that they very much are on target with offering things that should be free, because chant is free. And so you can hear in the background the Te Deum. This is the solemn song that is sung at the end of the office of readings, and then at other times of jubilation within the church. And so the two young friars dedicated themselves to teaching these ancient chants, and they even provide a PDF of the score to the music so that as they sing it, you can follow along.
Very cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can kind of learn how the neumes sound, what the different types of notes sound like.
Yeah.
And it's really, really beautiful. The Te Deum is just one example of what they're doing. They have a lot of the the Lenten songs as well. I probably should have played a Lent-appropriate song rather than the Te Deum, which doesn't show up again until Easter. Gosh, now I'm doing it. Yeah. So they began their efforts in late 2019, but they've already produced 41 educational videos.
Wow.
And now they've settled on a steady pace of 1 video per week. And it goes without saying that they have, hundreds of years of material to teach.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to run out anytime soon.
No, not at all, because even within chanting the liturgy of the hour, so chanting all 150 psalms, which is what religious orders and priests and consecrated men and women do, there, of course, are the 150 psalms, but there are multiple psalm tones, different modes of chant for that. So yeah, they could be there for a while. So brothers, that's an awesome thing. They bring the viewer into different monastic churches, and then they utilize the acoustics to perform the right chant for the acoustics that they're given within the church, which is neat too. Because that's one of the things that we forget about is that churches, especially churches that are beautifully vertically oriented, part of the theology that they speak is their acoustic.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I'll always remember. Several years ago, I was asked to sing for some friends for their wedding, and they were getting married in Covington, which is not far from where we are, at St. Joseph's Abbey. And I remember coming into the church, it's huge, and their musical director was like, and you'll stand here and you'll sing. And I was like, well, what microphone will I use? And he scoffed at me.
A microphone.
He guffawed, right? He was like, phew. And I was like, okay. And then I opened my mouth. I was like, okay, there it is. Like, it was so beautifully constructed, that I didn't need a microphone. And I was just one person. I could, when you get the monks in there to sing, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It reverberates. It's just incredible.
And that's why throughout the centuries, we typically have built churches that are taller than they are wide. That's part of the acoustic part of it as well. And that's also why we have choir lofts too, because of the way that sound travels. It goes from the back of the church kind of through the people, and then reverberates off of the apse, so the front of the church. Notice that a lot of them are kind of domed, and that's all. It's part of the beauty of the church, right? Where you can now fresco those domes and things like that. Yeah. But also, it's part of the acoustics. It's part of the makeup of how the music and really the when the priest does speak and when the priest does chant, it's able to hit the dome and go back.
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah, one of my Lenten
observances.
Well, yeah, one of the things I want to try is to learn the Salve Regina.
Oh yeah,
I love it. I didn't never grow up with that being chanted until I met friends in New Orleans. Yeah, and everyone knows it. I'm like, oh shucks, and I can get through probably about the first line or two, and then I'm like, I don't remember it. I don't know it. So I've downloaded it on my phone, and I have a printout with the neumes on it. To
look at you.
I had a little prayer card of the Salve Regina with the neumes on it, and I learnt to chant it in Latin before I actually learnt to pray the Hail Holy Queen in English.
Is that right?
And from going to praying night prayer and going to monasteries and on retreat and things, and hearing the monks and kind of chant it,
That's
just
the
loved
other
it.
thing about chant is it gets inside of you, and after a little while, the muscle memory kicks in very easily.
Yeah, because there's the middle part of the Salve Regina. I got the first part, and then when it's like, oh, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And you hear everybody else come in. Yeah. That's the part I know. So I'm working on getting that doughy middle part.
And there's a lot to the middle of the Salve Regina. You're right.
Exactly.
The words the Latin gets a little bit more intricate, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that I attempt to teach my choir is that really Gregorian chant is so much about kind of like almost like surfing or riding a boat down a river. Yeah. There's this undulation to it, and that's I think what we recognize in our bodies. What we recognize is that type of being carried along by music is different than kind of being the instigator of music. Because like even if we're listening to a popular song or rock music or something like that, or even something that's kind of a folk music tune, there's a sense that we're not passive in it because it's matching itself to the beat of our heart.
Right.
You know, but we can't quite grasp at chant. It's something that has to carry us. And so there's, again, in the wisdom of Mother Church, there's a reason for all of that too, because it is a song back to the Lord. And so it is the song of the church to her Lord. And so we are kind of being swept up and carried along with. There's this.
I love that idea. The parish that I'm going to whilst I'm here in the US, they've chosen to do the Latin missal chants for the Mass parts for Lent.
Yes.
And actually, I'm so pleased that they've chosen to do that, not only because they're beautiful, but because it kind of takes the performance out of any of those parts. It brings a solemnity as well in the celebration of the liturgy, and it's just really beautiful. So I was so glad that they had chosen to do that for Lent.
And it's so good to, again, allow chant to become part of our liturgical vocabulary again, you know, to say nothing of the Latin, but also the ability to chant. You know? We have a book, a music book for the St. Isaac Jogues Missal, and it has an anglicized version of chants for the responsorial psalm. And really is beautiful. But again, it's trying to teach people and choir about this notion of kind of that it's not following the same like bump 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 bump. You know, they're getting it though. I have to say, my choir is really well, I guess I could say rocking and rolling, but can you say that about chant? No, they are progressing well.
Good.
Yep. So the brothers the brothers OP are very willing to teach chant on their channel. They were interviewed by the Catholic Herald, and they said that this project began as a way to develop Gregorian choirs in England and in America. And since then, they've exploded in popularity. They have nearly 15,000 subscribers, and they're bringing together many of the monastic communities they visit. It says they're even getting some of their older members of the order interested. Brother Stephan said, "I remember one of our older brothers giving us some very useful advice when we recorded a few songs. He asked us to extend some notes and to breathe at times. It was really beautiful. An older brother who had been trained in singing at the time was giving us advice to improve our singing in a completely spontaneous way." Cool. And you see that sometimes it wakes up some things that maybe have been just kind of fallen asleep in monastic communities.
Well, that's a great way to connect the two generations, because I'm sure as an older monk, you know, you might be like, well, they don't want to hear it. Nobody wants to learn it. You know, nobody's really interested. But you know, you see that, like you were saying, that awakening of like, oh yeah, this is something that I want to pass on. And what a cool way that they can be a part of that, even if they're not technologically savvy. You know, even if they're not making the videos, that they recognize that they can be a part of that as well.
That's an important thing to say is that maybe you have an apostolate that's budding in your heart, and you're like, I don't know the first thing about turning a camera on. I don't even think I can find the record button. Well, this is a good opportunity to let somebody else press the record button, you know, and that's exactly what they've done. He says, what also, Brother Alexander says, what also touches me is the awareness of history through this sacred song, which has remained the same, which accompanied the common prayer of the brothers, loving the Lord together, studying together. We have here a treasure which binds us to those who precede us and who gave their lives for Christ in our order. It's our turn to pass it on. And that's really a beautiful connection with our Catholic heritage, is the Salve Regina that you love so well goes back, I'm just kind of pulling a number out of the air. I think that at least 800 years, but probably more. And so a lot of the saints that you're devoted to and the ones who have given their lives for the faith, they sang the same thing. And so there really is a family connection, you know, because we are connected by our baptism, and we are certainly connected by the witness of the martyrs. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. And to know that some of those seeds of the church also sang these hymns of growth, of spiritual growth, is really cool too. Yeah,
absolutely.
Their lessons are completely accessible to students of all skill levels. They're provided in English as well. So you can go on YouTube. We'll put all this in the show notes, by the way, but you can go to the OP channel on YouTube. They may need to get somebody to help them out, because you can't just type youtube.com/OPchant, because they haven't set up their custom channel ID yet. So you have to use the search bar in YouTube, OPchant, or go to opchant.com. I'm pretty sure that's it. I'll just check that while I'm on the internet with you here. It is opchant.com. and you can get access to all those videos as well as the PDF downloads to get the music. Well, I'm excited about this because I just discovered it a few weeks ago, and already I'm trying to I need to polish the art form a little bit here with Chance. So all right, it's that part of the show where we just simply give you a gentle reminder that we are the Catholic Underground. Oh, yeah. You're listening to, you've somehow stumbled into the foyer of the Catholic Underground. We're online at catholicunderground.tv. I'm Father Chris, joined by Kathleen Lee. Gemma Wildsmith is in the studio today. Jeff Blackwell is always in space. And Ed is switching the video for us today. Ed, thank you for being there in the ball pit.
Yes, indeed.
She likes it when I say that. So
the ball pit.
Therefore, I did. Yeah. So as we come on the air, we are in the month of March. So we're kind of smack dab into Lent, right?
Yep.
We've celebrated the second Sunday of Lent on our liturgical calendar, and that means that the Feast of St. Joseph is coming up. It's a solemnity in the church.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
St. Joseph. Well, this might be news to you that every month in the Catholic calendar, which there's 12, just like a regular calendar, but in the Catholic Church,
you can blame us for that too. Yeah.
Surprise! In the Catholic Church, each month is dedicated to a theme, and so we know March is for Saint Joseph, and Saint Joseph has to be one of my favorite saints because Saint Joseph never spoke a word in the gospel.
Is it because you speak a lot that you?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He of course I went to a school named after St. Joseph.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was in high school that I realized his interceding in my own life, where he was like, Kathleen, shh. You talk too much. You make too much noise, right? Because I always thought maybe that's how it is to be, to evangelize people and to get out there and blah, 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 right? And he's like, you need to learn how to do it quietly. Right. And so he has a very special place in my heart, but he may have a special place in your heart as well, because he is the patron saint of workers, of families, of homes, and a happy death, which is very interesting. That's something I've learned to, in the last couple of years, pray to St. Joseph for people who I know are suffering and who are dying, is to be able to have a happy death, which is, it's hard to explain to my students.
I can tell you exactly what that is because I witnessed it in my own father's life. My father died a couple of years ago. And the grace of a happy death is for all of the little tangles that kind of, wrap around our lives. It was really something to just kind of watch them all untangle.
Right.
So that my dad could rest, and so that all of the family around him could rest and appreciate the moment that was taking place.
Sure.
Powerful. St. Joseph's intercession.
Incredible. So if March is the month of St. Joseph, very interesting that February is devoted to the Holy Family. Right? And so then we have this next month who is devoted to the head of the family. A lot of times I think St. Joseph, because he is so quiet, we read about him, at the Nativity at Christmas time, and then it's kind of like, oh yeah, and then Jesus lived his life with Mary, right? And you have all these hidden years. I'm reading about Jesus's hidden years, and how much, what a role St. Joseph had in being the head of the Holy Family, the protector of Mary and Jesus, and how, maybe not difficult, but challenging it must have been to provide that and know what he was caring for. Maybe, St. Thomas Aquinas says this: some saints are privileged to extend to us their patronage with particular efficacy. It's a big word. It's a $5 word.
Which means effectiveness.
Right. But not in others. But our holy patron, St. Joseph, has the power to assist us in all cases, in every necessity, in every undertaking. Like when you start learning about the silent St. Joseph, what he does and how he intercedes for us is incredible. So there are a few ways that you can align your family and yourself to St. Joseph this March. One of them is, for your special intentions, there's a powerful prayer to St. Joseph.
And I suppose we should mention that we don't pray to the saints because they have power in and of themselves.
Sure.
But we ask for their intercession because they have a particular relationship with our Lord. Just like you'd go to a friend of yours because they have a particular relationship to another friend. It's the same kind of thing.
Right. And this is a beautiful prayer. I think we pray a lot to Mary because because she's so close to her son, but we forget how close was Saint Joseph to Jesus as well. You want to pray the prayer or say the prayer? You want to just post it on the...
Oh, hey, you got some time. You can say it if you like. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes for sure.
For sure. But I'll read it to you. It says, "O Saint Joseph, whose protection is so great, so prompt, so strong before the throne of God, I place in you all my interests and desires." And it goes on to talk about his powerful intercession, and that I may offer my thanksgiving and homage to the most loving of fathers, right? That Saint Joseph, we talk about God being a loving father, but St. Joseph also has that role of spiritual fatherhood to us as well. I never weary contemplating you and Jesus asleep in your arms. How beautiful. Yeah. That he carried Jesus. Those are my favorite images of St. Joseph, of him carrying the Christ child. Right? Can you imagine, or the pictures of St. Joseph in working in his shop, his carpentry shop, right? And Jesus being right there and learning, Jesus's fatherhood for us from his own father, right? So beautiful. Number 2, honor your own father or fathers, right? In Italy and Spain, actually, Father's Day is celebrated annually on St. Joseph's Day. Super cool, right? They give that whole day to St. Joseph. And for us, you may have a biological father, you may have people in your life like uncles or friends
spiritual
of the family.
Fathers.
I'm getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Right? And then you may have spiritual fathers, right? Honor your fathers in some kind of way. Call them up, give them a card, have a mass offered for them, especially your priest. Call them up and let them know you love them and that you support them and that you're thankful for their fatherhood as well. Because I would imagine, as it's not always easy being a mother, it's not always easy being a dad, right? Especially when you have to guide your children and your children are a little rebellious, right? And give you a little attitude, right? It's not always easy, but they want the best for us and they're praying for us and they're leading us.
Which, by the way, I should just say that Kathleen is the best at sending cards.
Aw, thanks.
She's really good at it.
Thanks. Okay, number 3, resolve to work smarter this month. We do know that that St. Joseph is the patron saint of workers. Yeah. So what does work look like in your life? Do you have a good balance between work and rest? When you go to work, are you putting in 100%? I know as a teacher, sometimes I'm like, okay, today's a movie day because I'm tired, right? But
you're giving away your secrets.
Yeah, I know. Don't tell anybody, okay? But are we really engaging in our work? Are we really working hard, offering up our labor out of love and gratitude for St. Joseph, even when it's hard? Right? Especially my generation and lower, I don't think we like to work, right? So we're always looking for the loopholes of how to get out of it. But are you putting in the work and offering that up to St. Joseph?
I'm doing the consecration to St. Joseph. Father Donald Calloway has a book, which, by the way, worth it. And there is a lot that we can infer about St. Joseph.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we can infer is that his work was not easy.
Yeah.
That he had to ply his trade of being a carpenter. But then he also had to travel to Egypt at the message of an angel saying, get Mary and the baby Jesus out of here. So he went to Egypt where there were no bodies that he knew, and he had to ply his trade there where everyone knew that he was not Egyptian, Yeah. And so he shares in that difficulty whenever we share difficulty.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. A really cool thing that you can do in your home, I have one in mind, is place an icon, a statue, or an image of St. Joseph somewhere that's prominent on your table. I have a little shelf in my hallway, and St. Joseph sits right there. Put a picture of your family next to it and pray to him to protect your family, to make you whatever role you have in your family, a good daughter, a good husband, a good wife, a good father, right? And to remind you to pray for your father as well. This is a really cool tradition. Make a St. Joseph's Day altar. Yep. This is an Italian tradition. There's a lot involved in it. And if you've ever been to one, it is crazy cool. But anyone can practice it, just like we're all Irish on St. Patrick's Day. We're all Italian on St. Joseph's Day, right? We are the universal church, and that's what's so beautiful is that we can enter into these customs and these traditions. The St. Joseph altar is a fun and meaningful tradition that even your kids will enjoy helping with because they can get involved in it. You can make it super elaborate. Maybe you've been to one at your parish and it's like 3 tiers of just food and goodness, right? Or maybe something a little bit more simple in your own home. Sometimes there are 3 levels, right? Each one devoted to the person of the Trinity, right? Or or for each member of the Holy Family. You can place a statue or a picture of Saint Joseph at the top, right? And there are all kinds of traditional foods that are served at the Saint Joseph altar. Spaghetti with eggs, right? Which is really awesome.
That's your protein, right?
Yeah. Fava beans is a traditional thing. Lemons, I think the tradition is if you steal a lemon off the Saint Joseph altar that
you'll get a husband.
You'll get a husband.
12
yeah.
months.
I've stolen several lemons. Okay. But
Kathleen has an entire fruit basket from all. Yeah.
Some other things include breads that are shaped in the form of a cross, or in the shape of a staff for St. Joseph and his staff. Figs, olives, and dates, artichokes, fruits, and salads.
My favorite is like the lamb cake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
that shows up at the St. Joseph altar. It's a cake shaped like a lamb.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Also at Easter. But
I've never seen a St. Joseph altar, and so I'm quite excited about our
fantastic.
parish has one going. So on the 19th, I'm going to go and see for the first time a St. Joseph's altar.
Yeah, they're super cool. There's all sweets of all kinds. There's usually not meat, right? Because it's during Lent to observe that. One of the cool things that I read in this article was for the main meal, you can serve traditional feast day dinners such as fish and St. Joseph's sawdust, right, which is really cool. They toast breadcrumbs over pasta representing the sawdust from St. Joseph's workshop. Super cool tradition. If it's going on in your parish, go to it.
Yep.
But there are also several ways that here in the South, you can find a way to include St. Joseph in the decor of your home. One of the things that represents St. Joseph is the lily. Here in the South, we are inundated with fleur-de-lis. That's kind of our symbol. But find a way to incorporate that into your home decor.
Yep.
You know, if it's not a statue of St. Joseph, something that reminds you of him. Father was talking about the consecration to St. Joseph. I didn't start mine yet, but I did get the book. I'm going to start it so that I will finish on the feast of St. Joseph the Worker.
Oh, cool.
And I'm super excited about it. Find ways to give. Since St. Joseph is the patron saint of families, find a way to give to families in need. Pray for the suffering and the sick and the dying. And at the end of the day, give your worries to the sleeping St. Joseph so that he can carry them to his son.
That's one of Pope Francis's favorite devotions. All righty. Well, you know what that sound means. It means that we have to take a bit of a break, but stay right where you are. There'll be more after this. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us, and after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary. Hello, my friends. Welcome back. You found the Catholic Underground with me, Father Chris Decker, joined by the inimitable Kathleen Lee.
That's a new one.
Yeah. The equally inimitable and unrepeatable Gemma Wildsmith.
Thank you.
That's right. And the not-so-cantankerous Jeff Blackwell.
That's right. We accept no invitations.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And Ed's, of course, in the video cave there as well.
Right over there, yeah.
All right, our picks of the week are coming up. But first, because it's Lent, and not just because it's Lent, we thought we'd spend a little time talking about prayer, because prayer is one of those things that, even though we don't like to admit it, we think that prayer just happens suddenly, or it doesn't happen at all, you know? And so we thought we'd spend a little time talking about how important it is to be practical with our prayer, to practice our prayer in the same way that you have to practice a sport to get proficient at it, or dare I say, practice your faith, huh? We also have to practice prayer, and there are different habits of prayer that we ought to practice. We kind of kid ourselves and think that the saints are born or created with by an arbitrary decision of God, who every now and then suddenly decides to like top up humanity's quota. Like they all of a sudden they're created and they automatically know how to pray.
Yeah.
You know,
Time for a new saint.
Yeah.
That's right. Bloop.
I was talking to my sixth graders about St. Padre Pio, and they were like, "How did you get the stigmata and bilocate?" And I was like, "Y'all, he was holy." And they're like, "I know, but like, like that." happened over time because he developed his faith life, and they you could tell they struggled with that. I was like, he didn't just wake up one day and go, oh my gosh, what are these things on my hands? He was holy, and he prayed, and he practiced.
Yeah, exactly. And he came from us, right? From humanity, right? He didn't just kind of go bloop, saint.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. So this is an idea that we have, but there's more to it. So one of the kind of the modes in which we can look at prayer is actually by looking at the predicament of someone who experiences addiction. So the predicament of the alcoholic is a dramatic kind of blown up picture of us all. The fact that our plight is obviously not so dramatic as a mixed blessing, right? If it were, it would force us to see ourselves stripped of all falsity and pretension to face stark reality. We'd come then to a moment of decision. And oftentimes, whenever we look at somebody who experiences an addiction, the thing that gets them to wake up and to say, wait a minute, things are not as they should be, is that rock bottom moment, right? Hitting the rock bottom. And oftentimes, that's what causes somebody who has an addiction to say, okay, I need help.
Right.
And so he admits, right? The alcoholic admits that he is an alcoholic and is absolutely helpless. But then something can happen. Right. They can step in and use that yes to begin to seek help for themselves. So it's kind of facing reality, making this admission. They can't do anything. And so, as you know, probably the 12 steps of recovering addicts of any kind are based on that. The first is to admit that they're powerless to help themselves and their lives have become unmanageable. The second is to believe in a power greater than their own that can restore them to sanity. The third is to turn their lives over to God as they understand Him. And then the other steps amplify those and emphasize the need to face up honestly to past faults and to make amends to those that they cause so much suffering unto. And so with that in mind, we can kind of look at our own prayer lives. Even though we may not suffer addictions, there can't be a fresh start or renewal in any life or a group or community, any individual, unless we admit our own inadequacy and our past failures.
Yeah.
Oftentimes the thing that keeps me from coming to prayer is my own pride, thinking that I can manufacture my own mountain to dwell on all the time, but I can't transfigure myself. That's not how it works, So
yeah, we have to know our need.
That's right.
We have to know our need
We have
of God.
to know our need of God. Yeah. So once we begin to know our need, right, we begin to admit our weaknesses. We begin to appreciate the fundamental principle that all of us are wired for spiritual life. We're not just wired to wake up, get our coffee, run out and try to make money.
Right.
So often in life, that's what we tend to boil life down to, we can't go a single step forward without God. And the gospel does not say, without me, you won't be able to get very far. It says, without me, you can do nothing. Without me, you can do nothing.
Yeah.
And I have actually in my own Lenten prayer spent time with that phrase. Yeah. Without me, you can do nothing.
I was describing this to a friend. We were talking about prayer and spiritual life the other day, and so often we try to put God in a box, and it's just one box among many in our lives. But actually, if you start to see it that God is the box in which we live and move and have our being, then actually it kind of begins to make sense that actually, we can't do anything apart from Him,
That's right. And which of us would belittle ourselves in our own pride, right? When we think that God's in the box and we're bigger than the box, right? Which of us would belittle ourselves by going down to our knees to pray unless we're in need of help? Right. Well, without that basic humility of a little child, of saying, God, you are bigger, we can't even begin. And I think that's why perhaps Jesus says that it's difficult for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. As it is, that very weird phrase, as it is for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle, and it's oftentimes because we can't fit through this small space where God dwells, in the silence, if we're kind of puffed up with ourselves, right? So Jesus doesn't just mean a person with a fat wallet, but He's talking about people who are rich in natural gifts and in abilities too, people with brains or a lot of panache. Even those people with charm and artistic brilliance, if they live in only their natural gifts and abilities, then they can find themselves very far from God. In fact, there are some very intelligent people that I know who call themselves atheists, which, come on, you're not really an atheist. It takes a lot of work to be an atheist, or at least agnostic. Like, if God exists, I don't really care, because they're so they're on the laurels of their own natural gifts and talents and abilities. Because none of these riches that we're given are in themselves evil, right, but they have the same danger. Sure. That they can give us the false impression of our own strength, our own importance, and our own personal competence. Like, who needs God when money will give me everything I want?
Right, and we see that throughout the entertainment world. People who are like, "Oh, I'm the greatest that there is." Well, it's only a matter of time, and I'll be watching the headlines for when your life turns out to be something that you have no control over. Yeah. And unfortunate things may happen. And not that I wish that on anyone, but that's a common theme, right? Is when people become famous for being an actor or becoming a singer or whatever, it's not the ones who are steadily successful are the ones that, may mention God in an interview here or there. Or they, they bring their family to church and nobody ever takes pictures of that, But you see that. You see that in the world today, for sure.
And it's really interesting when a movie star on social media will actually be courageous enough to kind of put themselves out there and say, well, we went to Ash Wednesday, because I get the sense that they, some of them at least, really do understand that they don't have any of the natural gifts they have unless they have existence, and their existence comes from God.
Sure, yeah.
That He shares those gifts with us very freely. So part of that is, as we say, is recognizing our own weakness, and that's the one way that we come to experience our need of God's help. And building a life of prayer means turning our lifestyle upside down, if need be, to find the necessary daily time for prayer. I mean, how many times in my own life, you might experience it too, that we think of prayer as just kind of like a luxury that, well, only priests pray. Yeah. Well, I can tell you that some of us don't pray as often or as well as we should, but or people that have spare time on their hands. Like, these people who are YouTube famous, they've got all this time in between making their millions, and they would have time to pray,
Or the little old ladies who are, that's they must live in the church because that's all they do with their lives.
Yeah. Or professional Christians.
Yeah.
That's right.
Professional Christians who, work in the church and are like, oh, well, of course they pray.
Yeah. I had to be really, really real with my students because I think that they struggle with this as well, even though they're younger. I said, don't get into the trap of the fact that you go to a Catholic school. Yeah. Then this must count as prayer. If all you're doing is saying the words, then it's not prayer. And I had to tell them, I said, I'm going to be very real with you. I've studied theology. I have a degree in, religion. I've taught school. And I get caught in that trap very often that it becomes, I prayed at work, but is it real prayer? And am I praying at other times as well when when I don't have to do it?
Yeah. I've learned in my line of work that when somebody who is my contemporary or older says, well, I went to a Catholic school, and usually what comes next is very revelatory of the life of prayer that he or she has adopted since their graduation from Catholic school. I mean, I'm not knocking Catholic education, but it is a treasure trove of tools that have to be used, right? And that's what a Catholic education is supposed to do. And if we just say, well, that stuff I learned and got the diploma. No, that's not a life of prayer. That whenever we say I wish to be a person of prayer, I have to admit that whether I went to a Catholic school or whether I was a public, which I was, that I have to be willing to make the time for prayer. And even a priest has to do that. I have a very busy schedule, but I have to get up at 5:30 in the morning to begin to pray the official prayers of the church that I have to pray, but also to take time to listen to the Lord speaking tenderly to my heart as His son, we are filled to the measure of our weakness by the Father's richness. And that's really the first step in prayer, is to realize that we are weak, and the Lord wishes to fill up that weakness with His presence. The more we are filled with His fullness, the more we are lifted up out of ourselves, in a self-forgetfulness that enables us to pray properly for the first time. And I know one of the things that happens in my own prayer life is that whenever I kind of allow myself to be emptied before the Lord, I also then have the capacity to pray for others and not just for myself. We should pray for ourselves. Yeah. It's okay. It's not selfish to pray for yourself, but then that pours itself out into wanting to pray for others as well. And that all comes from recognizing that we are weak, that we're fragile, The more we are tangibly immersed in the mystery of God's love, which is why we as Catholics have a liturgical life, right? Why we have the devotional life too, why we have things like the rosary. The more we're tangibly immersed in the mystery of God's love, the more we begin to see that all prayer leads to praise.
Yeah.
All prayer leads to giving glory to God, and we can lose ourselves in God, who is inexhaustible. I mean, it's hard for us to imagine a God who wants to just pour out everything on us, because we in our human relationships go, nobody can really want to share
right.
everything.
And with how many billions of people on the earth he wants to do that with? Okay, he can't be pouring out everything to everybody. Yeah, because we in our own time, we can't do that. We can't give ourselves, this idea of giving ourselves fully to one thing is unimaginable, because there are a billion things going on in our life, and we give maybe 1% to all of it. If we get caught up in it. So that idea of he wants to fill us and have a personal relationship with us, me,
right?
And you, is kind of unfathomable.
That's right, exactly. And the trouble is we have a hard time believing it.
Right.
And so we kind of sometimes make our prayer this purely academic principle of theology, that it's something that I can kind of toy around with in my head, but it never reaches the heart.
Sure.
And it never pours out of the heart to God.
Right.
And that's a danger, especially for a seminarian or a philosophy or even a theology student, that it can remain this academic principle. But all of those things, as St. Thomas Aquinas says, that's straw compared to what the Lord wants to do in our lives.
Right.
So if we actually believe that we're weak, that we need God's help, and God's help, and that He wants to pour out His presence onto us, we'd scream for it.
Yeah.
We'd go to Him and we'd find the time to open ourselves. But it's always interesting that we just kind of can try to fill ourselves up.
Yeah.
And it's like filling yourself up with vapor.
Yeah.
Or Chinese food.
Yeah.
But I don't think we talk about it enough.
Yeah.
I don't think people ask for the help in learning to pray, or acknowledging that they don't know what it looks like for their prayer life to mature as they mature as a person.
Right.
So even if you've had a Catholic education and you might know the prayers and you might know the words, actually what does it look like to pray as a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 45-year-old, however and whatever your circumstances are, and we kind of have to break the silences around it to help people kind of engage and grapple with the desire to want to know God, but not really knowing how to go about it.
That's right, exactly. And so learning to pray, well said, takes practice, constantly showing up, opening ourselves up to God. There's no accomplishment of any worth that I know of that you can attain merely by desiring to have it. The first step is to say, Lord, give me the desire to pray, but being able to kind of step into it and show up. As we were talking before the show, showing up is the 9/10 of prayer. Putting ourselves in the presence of God. Those who wish to succeed in a particular accomplishment have given hours of time, and even if they have a flair of genius, they give hours of time. Arthur Rubinstein, who's a concert pianist, was arguably the greatest one of the last century, and yet at the age of 84, he admitted that he needed to practice for 6 hours a day.
Wow.
In his prime, he practiced for 9.
Wow.
And so he was a musical genius at the age of 3, but it took a lifetime to master the techniques necessary to facilitate and maintain the growth of that genius, to enable him to share it with others in a concert platform. And the same could be said of many artists and performers, but it also could be said of us, that we have to show up for prayer and we have to keep getting it wrong, and keep asking the Lord, to keep showing up. One of my favorite books, actually Olivia, who's on assignment this evening, Olivia talks about is beginning to pray. And the very first notion of that is knocking at the door, simply showing up to knock at the door of God. And I forget, I'm paraphrasing, but and then the Lord may walk through the door, but he may remain silent for a time to continue to teach you how to ask.
Yeah.
And that's a very real thing, but to continue to show up in prayer. And it's hard for us to imagine that that prayer is an exception to the rule of continually having to show up and to practice it, to show up at the door. If we're supposed to be dedicated to the mastery of the art of arts,
Right.
And at best we drift aimlessly along like these, amateurs. I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so therefore I know everything about it. But prayer demands even the full potential of a professional if we're going to do it.
Well, I think, I'll go back to some of my favorite saints, like St. John Paul II. When you read about him, like he spent hours in prayer, right? This guy is the Pope, right? And he would spend hours in prayer. You read about St. Mother Teresa, right? Who, when she was so busy and was taking care of so many people, and when her sisters came to her and said, "Look, we don't have time for a holy hour," she says, "Yes, we do, and now we have time for 2 holy hours," right? Because it was that important to make the time to, when we get to a point where we're like, "Oh, well, I'm prayed up," thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I've done all the prayer.
Like you've topped off the tank.
Oh yeah, I've had people who have told me, again, going back to Catholic school, I went to Catholic school. I've fulfilled my prayer and mass
obligation for the rest of my life.
Oh no, boo boo, you have not. Like, you're just getting started.
That's right.
And so when we look at the saints too, and sometimes, we can look at that and say that's just unobtainable. Because I can't be. They didn't know that they were going to be saints.
Yeah.
They didn't say, "Oh, I know in 5 years I'll be saint so and so. So I don't have to pray anymore because I've already achieved that." Right? They were just living the life.
Yeah.
And if they can do it with all that they did, right, all that they suffered through, and all of the work that they did, then we can make that time as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's such a great paradox, I suppose, of the faith, that because it's all about right order.
Yeah.
We think, "Oh, I don't have time to pray," but when we do take that time to pray, we actually achieve far more after than we would have done had we not prayed. Exactly. And so because it's in right order, we've given our day, we've given ourselves, our work to the Lord, and then allowing him to just kind of work through us. I know for myself, I can be far more productive after just stopping and praying, even for 5 minutes at the beginning of something.
I believe St. Francis de Sales says that everybody should pray for at least an hour a day, except for a busy person
who needs to pray for 2.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. And the saints would know, because one of the things that we find is that when we show up for prayer, and again, you can have certain rote prayers that you pray. I know a lot of folks have favorite prayers, ROTE, by the way, just prayers that we've memorized or things like that. But all of those things are supposed to kind of free us up to be able to sit with the Lord, to go from the Martha of prayer to the Mary of prayer, because contemplation on Scripture, contemplation of divine realities of heaven, all of those things are where we're supposed to arrive. But we can't do that unless we're willing, like Mary, to sit at the feet of the Lord, to say that all of these other things that I have to do are important, but I must place myself at the feet of the Lord. And then the tapping of that oasis of prayer, of sitting at the feet of the Lord, then becomes a fountain. Yeah. And that's only if we're prepared to give some daily time to prayer. That we'd be able to kind of start practicing the piano, so to speak, right? To that little bit of time. And then the little time that we give is dramatically changed. We begin to see things changing. Yeah. And it's simply by giving the Lord time.
Right. Yeah, I think, I talk to people about this a lot. I used to think that, to be in the especially when Lent came around, I was like, I know, I'll pray the rosary every day. I'll go to 3 daily masses a week, and
I'll stop at the Adoration Chapel.
I'll go to Holy Hour at least 3 times a week. And I was like, Kathleen, have you prayed the rosary in the last 6 months? Once? No. Have you been to daily mass in the last year? No. When was the last time you went to Holy Hour? Don't feel like we have such beautiful prayers in the Catholic faith, such beautiful prayers. But if you're not there, don't aim that high, right? If it's for 5 minutes, for Lent, if you're not praying at all, 5 minutes a day, right? Or to open your day with a Hail Mary and end it with, an Our Father is a great start.
Yep.
Because you don't start, running 45 miles if you've spent your whole life on the couch. You can't do it, and you'll fail, and you'll be so hard on yourself. And not to say that we're not going to fail, but we got to help ourselves. And we got to go in those increments, right?
Yeah.
And that
we
time
have to be gentle enough with ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And
you
allow that time to grow.
You should write a couch to 5K for prayer.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Kathleen, there's your
That'd be real.
Catholic couch to 5K.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Because every Lent I overshoot. And I'm like, that's not realistic. It's
right.
And
it's unsustainable.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. If what you especially for Lent, if what you have committed to is not sustainable after Lent and not something you're going to do after Lent, then why do it?
That's right. Yeah. So I think you're right. To start with 10 minutes a day and gradually extend that period as we master the preliminaries, being able to sit for 10 minutes. Think about it. Think about what you do in 10 minutes every day, huh? At least 2 microwave breakfasts or something like that, Think of that. So 10 minutes and then gradually extend that time, because what happens again is the oasis becomes a fountain. Yeah. And if all begins to go well, then we stop wanting to kind of restrain ourselves to a minimum time, and we want to spend more time with the Lord. And the prayer that starts to develop at set times then gradually filters through the rest of the day. And in the end, our prayer life becomes kind of coextensive to everything that we do. And we can begin and end everything in prayer, all the work that we have to do. And so it's important to say that the beginning, if you're just beginning, the prayer period will be a bit like a desert, dry and barren. But eventually it becomes an oasis, huh? We expect, because especially in our Western culture, we expect to have results right away.
Yeah.
But that's not how a relationship works. You have to go on a couple of dates before you begin to really know the other. And that's what the Lord asks of us. Are you willing to let me court you? Are you willing to let me speak tenderly to you as to a lover? Song of Songs, folks, in the Old Testament. And that's what the Lord wants for us. But we have to be willing to be the beloved. We have to be willing to be the loved ones by God.
Yeah.
And that's where the oasis begins to spring up. But that oasis is not the end. It's only the beginning. Eventually, that oasis becomes a fountain that brims over and begins to irrigate everything in our lives. And then we can talk about prayer without ceasing. Then our spiritual lives transform daily, and we have even a greater desire to plug in to the treasury of the church, right? To our sacraments, to our worship, to our devotional life. And so then we can, at the end of it all, say like St. Paul does, it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And that's the goal. That's where we want to wind up, is in that great place of contemplation and sainthood. Yeah. So it's just that simple and that hard, I suppose we should take a little bit of time here at the end of the show for that part of the show that we like to call
the CU Pick of the Week.
Kathleen's already getting some app subscriptions, right? For your Catholic Couch for 5K.
Yes, indeed.
I think that'd be awesome. So your pick of the week there, Kathleen.
Yeah, absolutely. I love me some Trisha Yearwood. She's a country singer. If you haven't listened to her, listen to her stuff from the 90s. Incredible. A couple years ago, though, she started a cooking show. And I'm like, man, every time I watch it, she has this Cheez-It crusted chicken nuggets that you will die eating them. So anyway,
Kathleen talks a lot about chicken nuggets on the show.
Yes, I do. In fact, it was recently published in the newspaper. My love for chicken nuggets. I love it. Anyway, so she has a couple of books, a couple of cookbooks, and I picked up one of hers, Home Cooking with Trisha Yearwood.
That's probably sweet tea.
Yes, probably sweet tea that she's holding, and she looks awesome. I love her so much. But she has really simple recipes, and I love her show. So I thought maybe I'll pick up and see what she's got. And so I made cowboy lasagna the other night. It's like lasagna, except it's got pepperonis in it. Yes, I did. If you're looking at it right here, it looks fantastic. And so that was the first one I tried. It was delicious. And I've got many more to try. So if you're looking for simple stuff, I also have a couple of other cookbooks in the waiting in the wings, that I'll probably come up in the next couple of weeks. But Trisha Yearwood, Home Cooking.
There you go.
Get it now.
Jim, how about you? Do you have a pick of the week for us?
I do.
Oh, she came prepared.
It is on the food theme as well.
Okay, that's all right.
So my many trips to the US have made me a lover of coffee.
It's finally happened.
It has finally happened. In my mature age, I love coffee. And Mystic Monk coffee is amazing. They recently came out with, I think it's a 10-year anniversary blend called Paradiso, which is brilliant.
Oh, I haven't.
And then the other one is the Lenten Pasca Java, which is great as well.
Oh.
And I've just ordered a new one to try, which is called Easter Sunrise. So I might save that for Easter Sunday.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So Mystic Monk coffee, it's really good.
I'm behind on the new flavors of Mystic Monk coffee. And I don't know if you've seen the monastery, the Carmel that the monks out in Wyoming are trying to build, and the Mystic Monk coffee sales go into that. It's turning out beautifully. So if you go to the Mystic Monk website, we'll put all this in the show notes, then you'll be able to see the fruit of, your labor, their labor, and you're buying their coffee. So, yeah. Jeff, how about you up on the satellites? You got pick of the week?
I am a big fan of Rode microphones. That's R-O-D-E. They're made in Australia. Rode NT USB mic has just come out. It's compact. It is cute as a booger. Plus, it sounds great, and it's only $99.
Oh, that's nice.
Check it out. We'll have the link in the show notes. Rode NT USB mic.
All right. My pick of the week is something I've probably picked before, but I'm going to pick it again because it's fresh in my life at the moment. The Non-Designer's Design Book. I give this to every parish secretary and every Dawson official that I see because designing things well is tantamount to being able to communicate well. It's by Robin Williams. No, not that Robin Williams, but another one. And we'll put this link in the show notes. Jeff, we are so glad for all of our benefactors to join us in this way, all of those who pray for us. We're just so happy to have you as part of the CU family, aren't we?
Heartfelt gratitude, Father. The Catholic Underground is possible because of people just like you. Join the growing number of undergrounders at CatholicUnderground.com/donate. Plus, an important way to support us is to like us, heart us, star us, and share us on your social media platform of choice. And by the way, leave a review. Those little stars will add up there.
That's true. They do. I like them stars. All righty. If you want our podcast or any of the show notes, you can go to CatholicUnderground.com, click the latest show, and you'll get all the show notes there. Our panelists this week have been Kathleen Lee, the benefactress, at KLee626 on Instagram. Thank you, Kathleen.
Anytime.
Also sitting in for Olivia, Gemma Wildsmith at GWildsmith on Instagram.
Yes, indeed.
She has a great Instagram channel. Thank you, Gemma, for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And we got Jeff up there. Jeff Blackwell is our technical director at Jeff Blackwellis on the Instagram and the Twitter.
There you go. And absolutely a privilege, Father.
Yes, indeed. Our research assistant and the leader of the crew in the lab is Jim Hayes and his family. Our video and graphics director is Ed Ball. And you know me. I'm Father Chris Decker. You can find me on Instagram at Digital Catholic and on Twitter at Digital Catholic. We hope that we've helped you cut through the noise and find that still small voice. We're the Catholic Underground. We're Faith Gone Digital, and we'll see you next time.
From the Catholic Underground.